Hello, horse racing fans. You like the hat? Well, I think it's appropriate for today's episode. Another day, another Derby profile. Today's episode is going to be on Mage. Let's go. So Mage is a very lightly raced Kentucky Derby contender with only 3 starts in his life, 1 victory, 1 second, and no thirds, and earnings of $247,200. Despite only having 3 races, he has 2 major Kentucky Derby preps under his belt. First, he was 4th in the Fountain of Youth Stakes, a race where he encountered quite a bit of trouble, and then, most impressively, he was 2nd in the Florida Derby. That we will talk about a bit more later. Highest speed figure is currently a 94 under the daily racing form, thanks to the Florida Derby. Now, we definitely have seen faster, but I don't think the Beyer speed figures or the statistics really tell the full story of Mage's potential. What I think would come in his running style, which is all over the place. He broke his maiden going gate to wire, he was mid-pack in the Fountain of Youth, but lost all momentum after being checked, and then in the Florida Derby, he was last, and then took the lead briefly, before losing it to Forte. So in short, he can do almost anything. Come from behind, take the lead, be mid-pack, he's a jack of all trades. Truly, a wizard of the running style. Now on to strengths and weaknesses, which I think tell a great story of what kind of potential this horse has. Now, to make a great Kentucky Derby contender, you don't necessarily have to have the most points, or even the most starts under your belt, but you do have to have a few things. Take a horse from last year, for example, Taba. On paper, he ran 2 times and is a Grade 1 winner. That's not bad, however, his lack of experience showed because both of those races were quite easy. He didn't really encounter much trouble, and he suffered for it. Mage, in his 3 starts, has encountered a lot of crap, to say the least. In the Fountain of Youth, he was pinched late in the stretch and kind of lost all momentum, and in the Florida Derby, he missed the break by a length, had to go from last to first, took the lead, and then lost it to Forte. Losing the lead to the champion 2-year-old and Kentucky Derby favorite, let's just say there's no shame in that. So that definitely proves that Mage has already done a lot in just a few starts. Battle-tested and has faced off against some tough horses. And even though he hasn't won, he hasn't been disgraced in defeat either. And the fact that he has run his best race in his most recent start, and it was such a dramatic improvement from his previous races, shows that going into the Kentucky Derby, Mage will have his best foot forward. So, while some might overlook him, he could be a great down-under type of horse. But now we have to move on to weaknesses, and despite all the praise that I have for Mage, there is definitely a few things that he's gonna have to worry about. His 2 big weaknesses are history. The Apollo Curse. Now, Justify did prove it was possible, ironic considering that Mage's father is good magic, but Justify was a freak of nature, and also it took over 130 plus years for a horse like Justify to not race at age 2 and then win the Kentucky Derby. So it's still a very hard task to do. And also, Mage has no experience at any other track other than Gulfstream Park. So despite all of the things that he has had to face in his 3 starts, there are definitely a few things that he has missed out on, such as running at other tracks. But on the other hand, it is not impossible for Gulfstream Park only horses to make the transition to Churchill. Simplification, while he did not win the Kentucky Derby, he ran pretty respectably. So that's not a death sentence, but it's definitely something to keep in mind. Overall, Mage is a horse that has done quite a bit despite only running at 1 track and only 3 times and not racing as a 2-year-old. He's overcome a lot and I'm impressed with him. So for that, I will give Mage an A- grade. A great use-under type of horse who could definitely overcome a lot of stuff in the Derby and fly late for a great placing. Who knows, maybe even an upset. And that concludes today's episode of Derby Profile. Hope you guys enjoyed it and comment down other horses I should cover soon in the Derby Profile series, and I will see you guys next time.